Hi, I'm Shaul. Today's video will hopefully be not only instructive to you, but also helpful. So that should make a little bit of a difference, because the videos on this channel are usually more informative than practical. In the last video I published, I featured a comparison between the Nikon 35mm f1.4G, a lens that I personally love, and one of the world's most venerable lenses, the Zeiss Otus 28mm f1.4, a lens made to be as close as perfect as possible in the engineering sense. It should make it possible to create medium format-like results on a standard full-frame camera. I made that comparison with the help of a viewer of this channel, Dr. Marcus, who was kind enough to send me a comparison video. The results are interesting. I asked you about the poppiness of those two lenses, as exemplified by that sample footage. And the votes were split. 50% of the participants in the survey thought that the Zeiss was poppier, and 50% thought the Nikon was poppier. However, I also asked you which rendition you like better. And the Nikon lens, surprisingly, had a 60-40 preference. It was able to beat that Zeiss Otus, which is quite remarkable. Of course, it wasn't a blind test, so you should take those results with a grain of salt. So, what is it that makes this lens, the Nikon 35mm f1.4G, so special? It seems to be the winner of every competition, every test I make, every comparison. Well, it's a professional level lens, introduced in 2010. It is quite an expensive one too. Its construction is quite old school. It's made of 10 elements in 7 groups. One of the elements is aspherical, and there is no low dispersion glass in it whatsoever. When you look at the MTF chart of this lens, you might be underwhelmed a little bit. It's not one of those very sharp, detailed lenses that are commonplace these days. This lens is a little bit older. It was made at a time when sensor resolution was much lower. The cameras it was made to shoot with were between 12 and maybe 16 megapixels for a full frame sensor at the time. So it's not the highest resolving lens, but still it shows its strength, especially when shooting organic subjects such as people. It's a lens made for documentary photography, for photojournalism, for events. As such, it has a very poppy, very true to life, round rendering of the scene that tends to confer the structure of objects, the distances, the textures in a lifelike manner. When you look at images made with this lens, you feel like you're there. The images are immersive, they are real. Let us have a look at the MTF chart made of this lens again and explore it a bit deeper. First of all, let's look at the low frequency contrast. It's around 90%, like every decent lens. That means that the overall contrast of images made with it is quite full. It is not one of those low contrast lenses where contrast level at low frequencies only reaches about 70%. Those were older lenses. However, it is not very contrasty at the high frequency level of 30 line pairs per millimeters. At that level, its contrast is only 50 to 60% for much of the projected image circle. It also shows some astigmatism. There's a separation between the sagittal and tangential lines, which means it is not extremely sharp. Contrast levels have the tendency of increasing as you stop the aperture down. But astigmatism doesn't improve really as you stop the lens down. Even at f4, at f5.6, it will still show some lack of resolution. And that trait will protect the images against extreme flatness. According to my hypothesis, a lower contrast level at very high resolutions, very high frequencies, mimics the way we see the world with our native vision. We do not see the very fine details in a very contrasty way. Our eyes are tuned to concentrate on structures, on distances, and not on minute details. This lens is designed to emulate the human eye, if you will. When looking at other lenses I like, lenses that have that true-to-life rendition, this finesse. A lot of them have a high-frequency contrast of around 50 to 60%, with some astigmatism. Such lenses include the Thypoc 28mm, that is filming me right now, the Thypoc 35mm f1.4, another nice and poppy lens, the Nikon 58mm f1.4, the Nikon G 24mm f1.4, the Nikon 105mm f2 DC, and the Nikon 85mm f1.4 G. It seems that this moderate contrast at high frequency is preferable, not only to me, but also to you. When I compare lenses, those lenses that show this type of 50% contrast level at 30 line pairs per millimeter seem to be more likable. Let me now switch to the Nikon 35mm f1.4 and we'll keep discussing. To demonstrate the relation between high frequency contrast and the look of an image, well, I don't really like the term look, but for lack of a better word, I'll keep using it. Anyway, to demonstrate this relation, I was looking for a tool that allows me to manipulate the contrast level based on frequency. In this search, I stumbled upon a method created in the 1980s that is called wavelets. Wavelets do just that. They divide an image into blocks of pixels, different magnitudes, and allows you to manipulate the contrast at each magnitude separately. Unfortunately, widely available software does not support this type of high-level processing. Even programs such as Photoshop or Capture One lack this feature. However, an obscure RAW developer, RawTherapee, actually supports it in quite a comprehensive way. I don't know if you ever used RawTherapee, but it's an overwhelming experience. It's an open source program, which is not very well organized. It has a lot of tools that are difficult to find. Many of them are overlapping, so it's a little bit difficult to find your way around. But for this purpose, it is quite useful. It has a whole wavelets module. The wavelets divide the image between a maximum of 9 levels of frequency, where level 1 contains the finest detail. It divides the image into blocks of 2 by 2 pixels. Level 2 divides the image into blocks of 4 by 4 pixels. Level 3 divides the image into blocks of 8 by 8 pixels, and so on. You can independently adjust the contrast for each of the levels relevant to what we call high frequency are levels 1 through 3 or 1 through 4. It depends on the pixel pitch, the size of your sensors, and the megapixel count. Wavelet processing was designed to control the perceived sharpness of an image. Typically, it is used to increase sharpness, to make tiny details more visible, and to reduce the noise level, eliminate it on the matching frequency level. It can also be used to soften background details, to make the bokeh smoother. But then you, of course, have to manipulate the coarser details by lowering contrast at the higher level, which stands for a much lower frequency. It is generally recommended to view the image at 100% at least when playing with those levels, so you can really see what you are doing, making sure edges and unwanted details do not show any artifacts. However, this channel is called the Dirty Photography Club, not the Clean Photography Club. So I encourage you, when you play with those tools, to refrain from enlarging the image. Just view it at the final viewing size, where the image fills the screen. I know many of you will find it quite hard to resist. This is not how you usually approach processing. But trust me, it's important. You don't really want to see what you do. Now, what we want to do is go against the grain and lower the contrast of levels 1, 2, and 3. Of course, you have to match the lens you shot the image with. I find that when using a lens such as this one, I don't really gain anything from adjusting the contrast level. But when processing an image taken with a clinical lens, things are quite different. You really have to lower the contrast at those high frequencies by 20, 30, 40% to see a difference in the rendition of the entire image. I'll show it to you later. To test how powerful this wavelet processing might be, I took 3 images shot with quite poppy lenses and try to increase the contrast level and then decrease it. Again, I'm talking about the high frequency levels of 1, 2, 3, and sometimes also 4. As you can maybe notice, from increasing the level really made the images flatter, more clinical. It accentuated the small details that are captured by those lenses, but not overly accentuated. On the other hand, when I lowered the contrast, I obtained photographs that are too soft in their appearance. They remind me of images shot with very old lenses, like the Jupiter 3, 50mm f1.5 with a Zona design made in the 1930s to 1950s. So, judging my own eyes, I think that the native rendition of these lenses is quite there already. Those lenses have a way to show us the world in a lifelike manner that seems very natural to us. This is what makes those images immersive. We feel like we can step into the image. And I then dug into my archive of RAW files and found an image I made in 2019 with a Sigma 35mm art, which is a flat clinical lens. And I tried to lower the contrast in order to make it more poppy. And surprisingly, it worked, as you can see on your screen right now. To me, images with a 33% reduction in contrast at the high frequency levels seems much nicer than the original one. Now that we have a tool to control the rendering of an image, should we use it on a regular basis? Well, there are some arguments to make for it and other arguments to make against it. First of all, this way of controlling 3D perception of an image is perhaps cleaner than controlling it by using different lenses. Manipulating contrast does not add aberrations such as chromatic aberrations or spherical aberrations. So the images will be clean of fringing, unlike many of those nice poppy lenses that suffer from some chromatic aberration and show quite a bit of fringing. This way of manipulating an image gives you more flexibility. When you use a lens, you get results that are already baked in. When you use a piece of software to adjust the rendering, you can have much more control over what you are doing, over the final result. When you lower the contrast in post-processing at those high frequencies, you also get rid of much of the noise, especially if you shoot in low light at high ISO values. That could be a matter of preference. Maybe you don't want the images to be noisy, or maybe you do want them to contain some grain. Personally, I like grainy images. I'm not talking about ugly chroma grain, but some luminance grain might actually make the image look nicer. The disadvantages of this approach to manipulating the look of the image is having to use RawTherapee. As I said, it's not a user-friendly program. It is quite convoluted and confusing. I would refrain from using it on a regular basis unless you have masochistic traits. Another disadvantage is you can not do it for video, only for stills. I'm not aware of any video editor that actually contains wavelet processing. Maybe there are some editors that do it in the background, behind the scenes, but they don't give you any control over the relation between frequency and contrast in the way RawTherapee does. And lastly, it's a time-wasting practice. The Wavelet module offers many more tools that I did not touch here, that are quite interesting to try and play with. Each photograph, each scene demands its own individual tailoring of the contrast. It's not something you can just set and forget. It's a lot easier to just use the baked-in results you get from your optics. To summarize this video, I think that we've seen a clear demonstration of the effect of contrast levels at high frequency on the look of the image. Being able to manipulate it, I could clearly see the differences in rendering. I managed to change the look of an image, make it flatter, more crisp, more clinical, or make it more poppy, more true to life, by only changing the contrast using the Wavelet processing module. That will be all for today. If you would like to support my channel, if you find those videos informative or even helpful, please consider buying me a coffee. It's a nice gesture between gentlemen. You will find the link in the description below. Thank you for watching and see you again soon.